I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Leah Carlin. Leah Carlin is with the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation. So, Leah, come on up.
Thank you. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you about a battle that's raging across America, what your elected leaders are doing about it, and how citizens just like you are making an impact. Through Jeremiah, the Israelites received a warning. I set watchmen over you, saying, listen to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not listen. Most of you know in this room that there is something blowing across America today, just as clear as any trumpet, warning us against the sweeping change from faith to secularism. The speed of this movement is alarming. The consequences are devastating. The question is, will we listen? Most people are unaware of the well-organized, well-funded, very strategic anti-faith movement, multi-millions of dollars by a dozen funders into 100 organizations for the purpose of destroying religious freedom, shutting down Christians, and ensuring and creating chaos. People don't know about this aggressive agenda, but we do see the chilling effects. The well-respected Atlanta fire chief, Cochran, fired because he authored a book that supported biblical morality. The 7-year-old boy in California recently who was told you cannot read those Bible verses that your mother is sending you in your lunch, in fact, going so far as sending a sheriff to his home to warn the mother. Washington football coach Joe being fired from his position, well-respected, a decorated military veteran, for going out into the middle of the football field after the football game and kneeling in prayer, thanking God that his players were safe. Lance Corporal Sterling court-martialed for posting a Bible verse at her workstation. Catholic charities, counselors, universities, business people, students, all being told that the price for engaging in the public square in America is simply deny your faith. And in case you think these are isolated cases, First Liberty puts out a book with thousands of cases. This is just the tip of the iceberg. That's what's happening in America. That's the bad news. The good news is, this was not just an organic slide. People didn't just wake up one day and say, gee, we don't think people in America should be able to live out their faith in the public square anymore. But as the majority of people believe, just like you and I do in this room, that the freedom of faith is the lifeblood of all of the freedoms we have here in America. But the other side is focused. They are committed. They are united. They're like this shark. And those standing for faith are normally disjointed. We are underfunded, not very strategic, maybe like this fish, each group doing their own thing. But that is changing. And with your help, it can change even faster. When people of faith unite in prayer, are proactive, think and act strategically, we are a force to be reckoned with. We have been given a window of opportunity right now, but that window will not stay open long. We have to stand together. The Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation, for the first time, has united, equipped, and mobilized the largest network of federal and state government leaders to take a stand for faith and make a strategic impact against the anti-faith hostility. Take a look.
John Adams smelled freedom and liberty before almost anyone else in the country.
The same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe.
He could taste it. He knew what it was like.
The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
I'm losing my freedom and my liberty, and it's slipping right through my hand.
Without God, there is a coarsening of the society. And without God, democracy will not and cannot long endure.
John Adams would say, no wonder it is. You put no trespassing signs at the door in the marketplace of ideas and saying in America, you don't have a place anymore for faith and religion and morality to even come in.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
He said statesmen can plan and speculate about liberty, but it is only religion and faith and morality that can birth the principles that can secure freedom.
The anti-faith, anti-God groups, they are committed to removing God in America, and they have an agenda, and it's very specific.
I have a copy of the Declaration of Independence and the 56 signers of that document, and it contained 2 revolutionary propositions. The second proposition was that you and I had a certain set of rights. Those rights I simply loaned to government, who used them for me. But the first proposition, and this was even greater, was that those rights had been given to us by a Creator, and that if they were given to us by a Creator, they couldn't be taken away.
Why would they want to do that? Who wants to remove God from America? It's not the majority of Americans. It's just a handful of people, and why?
This big attack on faith across the country is designed to separate that Creator from those rights. If they can convince us the Creator never existed, He doesn't live, He isn't true today, or if they can convince us that there's no nexus between that Creator and the rights, that we can't talk about that nexus, they have won the argument that either the rights don't exist or that those rights were given to us by the state. If they were given to us by the state, then what the state has given to us, the state can take away.
It's the very things our founding fathers said we have to fight against every generation. We will have to fight for our freedom, because America can only stand if the majority of people are religious and good people who love freedom, who love liberty, and want to remain a free republic.
The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
The true source of power is not found in the halls of Congress or the chambers of the Supreme Court or the West Wing of the White House, but it's found in the power of prayer before the throne of God.
The Congressional Prayer Caucus is an official U.S. House caucus with over 100 members.
Prayer Caucus has been a great way to bring together members of Congress. We leave political labels at the door. We come together and let's just pray for wisdom.
Whether you are the furthest on the right or the furthest on the left, you're all of one size in that room before God.
There are members of Congress who understand that there are limitations to ourselves and limitations to government.
My mother and father raised me to believe in something that is greater than myself. When you come into those hard times, I mean, you have to have prayer, you have to have a conviction of spirit.
There's a very special fellowship that happens, even across the political divide, when men and women of faith come together.
The Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and we are designed for the purpose of working alongside our elected leaders that are spearheading a movement to literally change the direction, realign the direction of America.
If in fact we were a nation that was birthed on those Judeo-Christian principles, what was that moment in time when we ceased to so be? It wasn't when a small group of people succeeded in taking prayer out of our schools, or when they tried to cover up the word referencing God on the Washington Monument, or they tried to stop our veterans from having flag-folding ceremonies at their funerals on voluntary basis because they mentioned God, or even when they tried in the new visitor center to change that national motto and to refuse to put "In God We Trust" in there. No, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't any of those times, because they can rip that word off of all of our buildings, and still those Judeo-Christian principles are so interwoven in a tapestry of freedom and liberty that to begin to unravel one is to unravel the other.
The movement is now, we have the momentum. We now have members of Congress, nearly 20 states who are on board and forming caucuses, hundreds of legislators that are now joining this movement. We have members of your city councils and your school boards that are standing together, that are forming a grassroots movement, that are saying, we're drawing a line in the sand. We're going to win because this is what America was founded for.
We can get a letter signed, an amendment signed by 100 members of Congress within an hour. And we roll back that Washington Monument problem, and we made the Park Service reverse it. If you have a veteran that dies in your family, you have a right, once again, to have a flag-folding ceremony, even though it mentions God. The architect of the Capitol refused. Speaker Pelosi came out, backed the architect of the Capitol up, said he was exactly right. By Thursday, we had 2.5 million emails hitting Washington, and on Thursday, they backed off of that. Today, once again, you can have God on flag certificates across the country. And I said, I want you to take off the part that says our national motto is E pluribus unum. And they said, you mean you want us to actually pull it out of the stone? And I said, pull it out of the stone because it's a lie. I said, we want "In God We Trust" engraved in stone. If you walk in the visitor center today, "In God We Trust" has been engraved in stone. I said, we want the Pledge of Allegiance We want the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag engraved in stone so you can't change it tomorrow when we leave. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance has been engraved in stone.
The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
As a result, in a span of a few short years, as a result of courage of these members of Congress, state legislators across the nation are taking a stand. We have now over 850 legislators that are part of this network in 31 states. And we are just beginning, leaders for positions of authority right now taking a stand for such a time as this. We are not an outside ministry trying to encourage and get these leaders to do something. These are the leaders themselves that are saying, we will stand. Will you stand with us? We are the hands and the feet and the architecture, the funding organization, the administration, to be able to allow them and help them to actually accomplish some of these things. And the results speak for themselves. The Pray USA movement that they launched and spearheaded, now over 1,100 elected officials have been joined by nearly 150,000 citizens now that have signed the Call to Prayer proclamation committing to unceasing prayer. But it didn't just start with that proclamation. These legislators are going into churches and holding Pray USA Spotlight Sundays, standing side by side with pastors in the pulpits, encouraging and urging the people in the churches to pray for this nation and pray for the leaders. So they are breaking the back effectively of the lie and misapplication of separation of church and state. The In God We Trust Put It Up campaign that they started in Congress and encouraged the display of our national motto. Over 13 states have passed bills and resolutions, many of those requiring that our schools now put our national motto up in their classrooms. It's really hard to tell a student you cannot talk about God when In God We Trust is written in big letters across its classroom. Thousands of police cars and emergency vehicles putting In God We Trust on them. We have over 3 million window decals. People went crazy and putting these up in their windows all over the place, taking a stand. 2 ladies decided that they were going to do an art contest. Over 650 public schools were involved in this art contest. Students, high school students, drawing arts about In God We Trust and having discussions about why those 4 words are so important in our national motto. But the real power is not in just what we've been able to do. The leaders are proving they will unite and they will take strategic action. They have convening power to bring everyone to the table. The real power is what we can do. Project Blitz, when our leaders realized that we could seize this new environment, this moment in time, they committed to advancing religious freedom measures across this nation. Nearly 200 bills and measures and resolutions in 41 states have been proposed this year so far in just the last few months. And so far, nearly 20 have been signed into law in 15 states. Do you know that's 4 times what was signed all of last year? We expect that to be double that, probably 10 times of what that is what can happen when the leaders unite together, because they understand we are going to spread the resources of the other side. We are all going to unite and do this together. But they need the citizens, they need us to work with them. So we started mobilizing coalition partners, over 40 coalition partners, family policy councils, business networks, prayer networks, people that weren't normally in this battle. We said, everybody get in this battle. Churches, we have to stand with them. 4 attorneys heard about what we were doing, and they formed a coalition. These are gentlemen in their legacy years, and they said, we want to use our expertise. We are attorneys, we have legal expertise. They started writing letters for our legislators, amicus briefs, open letters. They started creating a pool of witnesses to go into their committees for them, just using their skills to help these legislators. Let me just give you one last specific example of the difference that this can make in a person's life who is out in the public square just trying to do their job. The chairman of the South Carolina School Board receives a letter from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. This is a typical thing that the Freedom from Religion Foundation, they bully, they isolate, they threaten a lawsuit against this school board chairman. Even if he's a strong leader, even if he believes, it's very difficult for him. I'm just one man. He's like that one fish with this shark coming against him. And because the South Carolina Legislative Prayer Caucus was formed, they were able to send a letter to that man with 70 legislators signed on to it saying, you can take a stand, please take a stand. And he said, you know what, I can and I will. And every time one person stands, 20 more is ready to stand right behind him. The architecture is in place. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We already have it. It's just going to continue to grow. We have the National Strategic Center now. And I know that many of you are like me in this room. We want to make sure that our children and our grandchildren can live out their faith. And the question is not, when will our leaders stand for faith? The question is, when will we stand with them? I hope you'll stand with them. Thank you.
God we trust. Seems pretty foundational.
Yeah.
Would you turn to page 29, and if you'd like to get involved, you could even be the right person for that role. Would you fill that out? Lord, what I find just so interesting is how you put so many different desires in the hearts of different people. Desires to serve you, desires to take a cause that needs to be taken up, and to fight for it. And how do you bring alongside people, to that cause? How you give them the resources that they need. So Father, I just pray for Leah and what she's doing with the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation, that you would give her whatever it is that she needs to keep these things that we consider just foundational, that we can pray to you, talk to you, that we can teach our kids about you, that our schools can be open to your name. Lord, I just thank you. We just lift this up to you in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ.